Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Bulletproof Selling. My name is Sean Rhodes, and I'm the Chief Sales Architect here at Bulletproof Selling, the Chief Sales Sergeant, if you will, because here at Bulletproof Selling, just like on the battlefield, we believe that hope is not a strategy. And so we are here every week, sometimes multiple times a week, to help you increase the performance of your teams and the performance of their pipelines. Now, we get to interview some of the top minds in sales here at Bulletproof Selling. Speakers, authors, consultants, trainers, and those that have actually been out there on the front lines for their entire careers managing salespeople, which I know is a lot of the audience that we've got today. So my commitment to you, my promise is that every single episode that we do, we will build a sales system with our guest, leveraging their experience, my passion for sales systems, and you can use that system immediately, no matter the size of your business or the size of your goals. So it is my absolute pleasure here to welcome a CRO, a sometimes CRO, but oftentimes marketing executive. We're going to learn a little bit about what that means from him. Darryl, welcome to the show, sir.
Sean, it is awesome to be here, my friend. Thanks for having me.
Now, Darryl Praill.
Oh, yeah,
go ahead, buddy.
Before we go ahead. Sean said, "Hey, Darryl, this is going to be a relaxed conversation. We're just going to go with this." So right away, what do? I totally cut him off. The first sales book, I ever read.
Yeah.
Hope is not a strategy.
Really?
So just, you made that as a reference. Bing. Yep. There you go. Carry on. I'll shut up now.
Well, I haven't read that one, but I'll have to get it on my list. The inside cover of Bulletproof Selling, big, bold, gold letters. Hope is not a sales strategy.
True.
And I'm in firm agreement with that. Obviously, you've been inculcating that for your whole career. So, Darryl, tell me about you. Tell me about VanillaSoft. Tell me about what you guys do and who you sell it to. And from there, I know we're going to have fun.
Okay, so the fast and furious, so I don't bore the audience. Right about now, they're going, I don't care about Praill. Fast forward 60 seconds at a time. You wait. I'm a 53, soon to be 54-year-old man who began life as a computer programmer. I got bored of doing that after several years. I became a sales engineer. Because I was technical, right? That's your first start into it. That led to product management, that led to product marketing, that led to marketing, that led to, go through the ranks. Eventually, sales and marketing. And I should preface it by saying my very, very first job before I did coding, because when you leave school, you're like, I'm burnt out of whatever it was I just learned. I want to do something else, which I did. And then I went back to coding. I sold copiers door to door for 6 months, and it beat me up something fierce. So if you ever want to suffer rejection, humiliation, and just feeling like you're a worthless piece of crap, do that. That'll build character. That's the one. So then I bopped around from head of sales to head of marketing to head of sales and marketing. So I've been a CMO and a VP of marketing numerous times. I've been a VP of sales 3 times. I came to VanillaSoft in 2017, September. So it's 4 years, roughly. And I came as CMO, and then July 1st, 2020, on the peak COVID, they made me Chief Revenue Officer. So I'm one of those freaks of nature that went to CRO from CMO. So go figure that one out. All right. That's me. Check me out on LinkedIn, follow me, all that usual stuff. VanillaSoft. VanillaSoft is a sales engagement platform. So it's all about allowing you as a sales rep to engage more at scale. Phone, email, social, direct mail, SMS. It's just forcing you to do what you need to do, that 30, 40, 50 or more touches per day, that right cadence, 9 touches, 12 touches, 18 touches, whatever it takes. We would compete in a category definition of what sales engagement is with vendors like SalesLoft and Outreach. But we don't compete with them because they're all in on medium to enterprise deals and high tech. Where do we hang out? We hang out in the SMB space in more traditional markets like finance, manufacturing, insurance, healthcare, higher ed, that kind of stuff. So that's who I am. That's who we are. That's where we hang out. Sean, how'd I do?
That was beautiful, man. A lot of follow-up questions for you, because the SMB space is where I get to play in as well. A couple of Fortune 100 companies, but they tend to have different problems than the small to medium-sized business space. So tell me about, how does VanillaSoft differentiate itself from a CRM? How does it play together, or is that self-contained within the service that you have? Because from there, we're going to be able to go off in a couple cool directions.
Okay, so it's interesting you use that analogy. How do we differentiate from a CRM? So, and then because you combine it with SMBs, got a lot of different stuff going on. And my answer will encompass kind of both of those elements. So 40% of our base at my last survey of my customer base actually use us as a CRM. So the first thing about SMBs is SMBs have much less budget, discretionary budget, tech stack budget than a medium to enterprise company. When you go into like what we call real world industries, and what we're really saying is that there's high tech, which is not the real world, and then there's the rest of the world. So in real world industries, they don't tend to have 100 million, 300 million, 500 million dollars and a business model that allows them to actually lose money. Because, hey, we're chasing market share. And if we just lose money for 5 years, one day we'll be profitable. That's not the real world.
Yeah, that ain't going to work.
That's not the real world. Well, 40% use this as a CRM because it's all they need. All right. So let me explain how they're different. In a nutshell, how is sales engagement different from a CRM? If you look at it from a pure, abstract scientific point of view, CRM to repository of all your systems, right? Whether it's customer success, support, whatever, sales, marketing, etc. So that's that one voice of truth. That's the first part. Second part is CRM is probably good at nothing, but adequate at everything, which is nature of the beast, because the more you try to make it applicable to everything, the more complex the beast gets. CRM then, because it gets complex, usually means you need either have a dedicated resource on retainer or on staff to administer it and become a subject matter expert. So there's a higher cost of ownership. So there's that element. But on a more pragmatic point of view, CRM is all about, from a sales point of view, it's all about opportunity management. Here's you've identified it, you've done some prospecting, here's an opportunity. Now you can work it through the sales pipeline through the various stages, so you can do forecasting, etc. So your pipeline is an opportunity, close it, win, loss. That's its strength. All right. Where now its weakness is where sales engagement comes in. Its weakness is on actual prospecting. So what do most reps do here? So Sean, tell me if you've ever experienced this yourself or with clients of yours. Have you ever experienced a rep who they log into their CRM and they get their view of all their tasks or events to do today, and then they start cherry picking what they're going to do? Has that ever happened to you?
Happens yesterday, actually.
There you go. So that's CRM. So they cherry pick. Now, when you cherry pick, what that really means is that you're going, I'm going to do task number 1, number 5, number 15, number 42. Yeah,
just what I feel like doing rather than task by type or task by priority. Exactly.
Or what my gut says. Oh, that's Microsoft. I'm calling Microsoft. They got lots of money, and I'm going to skip everybody else who's never heard of them. So what that means is those ones that you skipped, 48% of the time, you'll never call them, which drives marketers absolutely nuts. So you spend all this money making leads, and the sales rep never called them because they cherry pick. Okay, tell me if this ever happened. Hey, Sean, marketing ever come to you and say, why are you not following up the leads we gave you? Has that ever happened?
Oh, exactly. Yeah, we spent all this money, we put all this ad buy out there, and what's happened? Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. Now, has it ever happened to you that you had this hot lead and you're working with a rep and you say, what happened to it? That was highly qualified, fit our ideal customer profile. It's the right person. We know they have budget. We've qualified them. What happened to that lead?
Oh, well, we lost touch. I called them. They said they were going to call me back. I sent an email. Yeah, 1,000 reasons.
1,000 reasons. But when you drill down, you say, well, how many times have you tried to reach? Because maybe they ghosted you. They've gone silent.
Yeah.
How many times have you tried to reach out to them?
No.
2 or 3.
Yeah, if that, right?
If that. Yeah. And over a course of what, like 60 days? So, so by that point, they forgot about you. Okay.
Right. They're cold.
Those are the negatives of CRM. They great at opportunity management, sucky at actual prospecting and whatnot. That's where sales engagement comes in. Sales engagement says, we're going to take all that manual stuff away from you, and we're just going to put it in front of you saying, you have to call this person. You can't do anything else until you call this person.
Today. Yeah.
This is it today. You're not seeing a list. You can't cherry pick a damn thing. You're calling Sean. And until you call Sean, nothing happens. Okay, you called Sean, great. Boom. Now you're emailing Darryl. Okay, you emailed Darryl. Okay, now you're sending an SMS to Frank, and so on and so forth. All right. Yep. And then it keeps putting that in front of you, 6 times, 9 times, 12 times, 15 times, whatever your cadence is. It mixes up your channels. So Sean's getting hammered a little bit on email, a little bit on SMS, maybe some direct mails, because we don't know what Sean reacts to.
Right. Oh, finally, Sean until it works. Yeah,
exactly. All right. So keeps on doing that because it's doing that for you. Every lead gets addressed. There's no cherry picking. Every lead gets hit. however, 9 to 12 times is the average statistically. You need to reach out to get a hold of somebody. That happens. Plus, it allows the sales management to prioritize. So in other words, here are the rules. We want you to reach out maybe to these customers before you reach out to those customers. So your reps are reaching out to the right people and they're hitting their daily activity numbers. And when you do that, all that said, when you do that, here's the wonderful thing. By the way, the reps hate this. The reps hate it because they feel like they're just robots.
Yeah.
They're just going through the motions, but that's called prospecting. But when you do that, your pipeline will double to triple because you're just doing the activity and doing the number of outreach attempts and doing the multi-channel stuff. From management's point of view, you've hired no additional bodies, incurred no higher costs. That's the difference. So CRM, great at opportunity management, and then sales engagement, phenomenal at prospecting. That's the difference.
So it's fascinating. You mentioned the integration of software as, I know software as a service is a big thing. This sounds a lot like software as a discipline. Because the things you're talking about, looking at that task list every day inside your CRM and reaching out, actually doing the work, that is the toughest thing for a lot of salespeople to do, because it does require, even though I might not want to make calls right now, I'm in my call block and I've got 15 calls I need to make, 20 calls, 50 calls, I've got to get it done. And so it sounds like this is a great service to be able to help salespeople just kind of remove hope in that they hope they remember what to do at what time of day. It allows that to be managed and they can actually go out there and do what they're there to do, which is sell.
That's it. It is a discipline. And it's also, the other thing I would say to you is it's a way of forcing them to overcome their own biases. So let me explain that. By definition, most people are predisposed. They are predisposed to a certain channel. So for example, I might love phone prospecting, but hate social. I actually had one of my reps ping me with a link 2 minutes before we went live to say, you've not commented on this and you should, why haven't you? Which I love, but it's because, I got other stuff to do right now. I'll get to social. Others may, and this is the big one. It's really much age specific.
Sure.
They love email.
Oh yeah. Email all day, every day. Thousands of
email all day, every day. And when you drill down on the one-on-ones and say, well, how come you've not heard back from this guy? Well, I emailed them. Okay, did you pick up the phone?
Spam, promotions,
exactly.
them just hitting delete because they don't know you. 1,000 reasons why you wouldn't answer an email or even open it. Right.
Correct. And when you say, if you picked up the phone, the answer is, well, no. And you look at them as a sales manager, you're like, what the F, buddy? Oh my gosh. So the beauty of sales engagement is it forces them to say, you're stuck until you send the email, or you're stuck until you do the social touch, or you're stuck until you send the direct mail, et cetera, et cetera. So it really forces that multi-channel outreach. And so after doing this for a sufficient period of time, everybody gets over their fear and the phone's not so bad. Social isn't so scary, et cetera.
And then your platform, it sounds like, turns in, instead of a management tool, which is really, you need to be doing these things at these times, priorities that have been laid out by your leadership team. Instead of being just a management tool, then it turns into something that actually helps salespeople. And this is something that we love talking about here at Bulletproof Selling, because eventually you get into this point where the systems handle most of your work for you. The system that you have at VanillaSoft says, all right, now you're going to make calls. Now you're going to send text messages. Now you're going to get on LinkedIn and drop some DMs. All of those things allow me to then be present in the task. The challenge we find so many salespeople run into, even those with CRMs, is that I've got to basically invent everything from scratch here. If I pick up the phone, I've got to try to remember the script or the discovery questions, how I qualify, ascertain budget, all those things. That's on every single call. I've got to try to remember it. We'll try to do that and be active and be engaging. Wow, that's just a lot to ask of a single individual. So a question we ask every one of our guests, and I have an odd feeling I know the answer, but I'd love for you to share it. Where do you find salespeople relying on hope just a little more than they should in their sales strategy? And I'm going to make it more specific, because you've opened up a couple of doors here. For folks that use VanillaSoft, where do they rely on hope a little more than they should? Is it in, now I have this tasker, pick up the phone and call. Am I hoping to remember everything I'm supposed to be saying? Am I hoping to remember the great email, courses that I've taken so I don't dork this email up and it's more about them than me? For folks that begin to onboard your service, where do they rely on hope?
Okay, so my gosh, I've never been asked that question. What a brilliant question. Sean, did somebody write that for you? I'm just kind of curious.
No, we actually do it every single time here.
No, I'm just messing with you, brother. Just messing with you.
Man.
The audience going, did he insult him? Yeah, Praill's just messing with him. So This is where you reciprocate and say, you're old, Praill. Get better product
Oh,
in your
man.
hair. Okay, so where do they rely on hope? Let's start with that. So they rely on hope on a number of places. The biggest thing I find is they don't. Oh my gosh, it's like, where do I start? A lot of sales reps don't learn their product or their service. So they rely on the hope that their innate sales skills overcome any kind of objection handling. It just overcomes it. That's the first part. Next part, they rely on hope that they get a sponsor. Okay, I got a sponsor. Mary responded to me. Mary's going to take me to the promised land. I do not need to build out anybody else relationally at that account and identify a buying committee. I don't need to do that. Mary's got it. Next one, they do it. They said they have purchase authority. So of course they have purchase authority. Why would I not believe them? Those are some of the immediate areas I see over and over again where they rely on hope. Now, here's something the weakness in VanillaSoft, same weakness that's in Salesforce or any other software product, is you have to log in. And if you don't log in, you can't use it. So where do they rely on hope? They rely on the hope that the prospecting they've done is sufficient to close the deal volume they need to close, which is another way of saying, if I don't feel like prospecting, then I'm going to do busy work to distract myself because I don't want to deal with rejection today. I don't want to do my time block because I'm just not into it. So a lot of hope logging in there. So those are some of the blocks I see. Now, how we overcome some of those issues, and it's difficult, of course, is to your point, built into our tool, we have a couple of things that help them be more successful. One is we have scripts that are built in, right? So you can make your own. And the scripts, okay, just for clarity for folks, because you're all going, I hate scripts. Okay, well, a script doesn't need to be a script where it sounds like you're a robot reading this to the prospect. A script can simply be bullets of talking points that you want to do. And it's objection handling built into it. So if I say something like simple, do you guys have a CRM? That could be right in the script. Yeah, we do. Oh, you do? So right away I say there's a yes, no logic in the script. I can say yes, they do. Which one do you have? Is it Dynamics? Is it Pipedrive? Is it HubSpot? Is it Salesforce? The list goes on. Oh, it's Salesforce. That's checklist Salesforce, and it guides you through how the actual the next questions. So that gets rid of a lot of that hope that they retain the knowledge. The other thing we get rid of is we do a lot of templates, whether it be for social or for email, so they can actually, do a couple of things. A, they know out of the gate that this is a good template because the organization has vetted it. But B, if they want to, they can test it against other ones and continually optimize. Right. So we minimize some of it that way, but the reality is reps will be reps. And the biggest thing I see all the time from reps who are struggling, who rely on hope, is the following. They will say to you, that's not how I sell. You just got to let me do my thing. And the reality is that's just an excuse because you're scared. But anyway, I don't know if I answered your question, but that's
absolutely did. And when I hear that from salespeople, that's just how I sell. Well, my question is, how's that working out for you? Because either you wouldn't have hired me to come in, or your company wouldn't have hired me to come in if they knew you didn't have more potential, right? Like they know you can do better. And so that's why I'm here. That's why you would bring in VanillaSoft. If the company's folding anyway, you probably don't want to do business with them, unless you have a strong sense you can save them. Now, this company we know can do better. That's why we need this software, VanillaSoft, why we need a CRM, why we need someone like me to come in and help them out. So we talked about something really interesting here with scripts and templates. Now, I understand that you all provide those, and you also allow the ability for companies to build their own, so they come in front of the salesperson at the right time. Well, the thing that I really love, Darryl, about scripts and templates is that I'm not married to having to use them verbatim. Neither a script or a template, right? I can look at it and I can say, based on what I know about this prospect, the history I have with them, the fact that I know that their kid is in softball this year or whatever it is, I can add that in, I can modify it, I can customize it. And I feel like if we don't customize scripts and templates to the individual that we're sending them to, then we're really cutting ourselves off at the knees for success, because it's really easy to tell a canned script, it's a canned template, a canned DM. So really curious to get your perspective on this now. For the salespeople you've seen really find success with VanillaSoft in using your scripts and templates, are those the people that learn them first and then riff on them a little bit, modify them, play jazz? Or are they the people that read them once and say, okay, I think I got the flow, let's roll? How do people find the best success with
Oh,
scripts and templates that you can roll out through your
oh.
software?
No one's phrased that question to me that way before. The ones with the most success are the ones that actually riff on them for a period of time. If they just do the read it once, I've got it done. Unless you've got a photographic memory, that's bullshit. You're
Right.
going through the motions of saying, yeah, I did it, so I'm appeasing you. Now leave me alone because that's not how I sell. So the ones, but I always use the analogy whenever I have this argument. I've had this argument. I've actually had a number of actual webinars with some pretty notable people in the space. One comes to mind with a guy named Benjamin Dennehy. He's out of the UK. He refers to himself as the UK's most hated sales trainer, and he's a great guy, but he's obnoxious as hell. And he'll be the first to say that to you. And he hates scripts. And I'm like, dude, I don't get it. Because as a sales trainer, you're going in there and you're looking for certain, hot buttons. You're looking for some objection handling. All of those elements are scripts. That's those could be script fodder. Because like in our case, you don't have to follow this. It's not linear. I can do a drop down and jump anywhere into the script process, go off on a tangent, and then come back. So that's the first part. Second part is it's a reminder. So if someone gives me an objection or I'm doing a pitch and they say something and we're going back and forth, so I'm drilling down, I may forget that I forgot to ask a couple questions. I may forget. So having those bullets in the script as I'm looking at the screen and taking notes, I'm going, oh shit, yeah, I got to go back and ask that question. Because it's all about when you got them on the phone, you want to do proper discovery and qualification. Because if you don't, what's the point, right? So the analogy I use with people is this. I'm like, we all follow, television. We all follow television, right? And every person there on TV, unless it's reality TV, and some would argue even that's not the case anymore, is an actor. And what do? They read their script. They don't read it once and say, I'm done. They read it and they read it and they read it and they personalize it. And then when it's time to actually roll camera, they will stick 80% to the script. And then it's 20%, give or take, completely off the cuff because they've made it their own character and their own mannerisms and their own, way of talking. And that's what makes that actor so convincing because they've made it real. That's how an actor works.
Yeah.
And that's how you should work as sales. The script is the starting point. It's all it is. Make it your own. Don't read it. Don't be a moron.
And this is something that I think would benefit a lot of salespeople because some salespeople are given scripts and they hate them, to your point. Some of us are at the point in our businesses where we don't really have a script because we're always just been the only one selling. We're those small to medium-sized businesses. We got it in our heads. We know what we need to ask. We know roundabout what we need to find out as far as discovery in order to qualify. And then we kind of know what to do after that. But if we build a sales system around this, I think it'd really be helpful for a lot of different people because then they know just a taste of what VanillaSoft can provide to them once they begin to get to that level where, hey, I've got this in me now. I've got it in an Excel document or a Word doc. Now I want to onboard it into VanillaSoft so I can really bring this into my company. So let's build a system around how do we just begin with scripts and templates. This is something that every salesperson really needs because we talk a lot here at Darryl about pipelines, about campaigns, which I know VanillaSoft handles as well. When you really get face-to-face, ear-to-ear, or on the battlefield, as we describe it, with a prospect, and some prospects, it feels like a battle because they don't expect your call. They didn't have this on their calendar. You're begging them for time. Well, I need a script. I need a template. I need something to at least help guide me. So when we talk about building this stuff at Bulletproof Selling, we're trimming hope from a sales strategy, exactly what you do at VanillaSoft. And we use the acronym TRIM, T-R-I-M. So T in TRIM is trigger. If I'm in the world of sales, let's say I don't have a script or I haven't used my script in a while, but I know I really need to get back on it. I know we need to get back on using templates because it really saves a lot of time to have an email template that I can customize. What is the triggering event? When do I need to begin looking at this? Is it quarterly? Is it when I'm in front of my next prospect and just ask myself, what am I needing to write today? Just so I can capture it? How would you advise a salesperson to begin to tackle this? What's the trigger event?
Okay. Okay. So that's like a whole conversation on its own right there. That's why you actually have entire sales enablement teams. So why you hire Sean, because the reality is most people don't know the answer to that. I'll be candid with you. They struggle. I'm going to go back even further in time. Maybe this is the marketer in me coming out, and I apologize, Sean. I am going to answer your question. One of the best exercises I've ever done, and I do this every place I go, is I actually get all the stakeholders. And the stakeholders could be sales and marketing leadership. It could be your top performers. It could be your company influencers or evangelists like a Sean or a me who are visible out there. And we sit in a room and we say, we're just going to have this is a safe room. And no matter what you say here, we're not recording. It's all cool, but we need to have some consensus and alignment. All right. So we're going to go around. I want everybody to sit and write down who you think our ideal customer profile is. Just write bullets on a piece of paper. All right. And then I want you to do the same thing for who are the key personas who want to target within that ideal customer profile. Maybe it's the head of sales, head of marketing, head of finance, head of ops, who knows, right? You figure it all out. Okay. And then we're going to go around the room and share. That's all we're going to do. And we're going to make notes on a board or wherever. We're going to kind of see where we have some commonality and where we have some differences. And what's amazing is how completely radically different everybody is.
Yeah.
But they've all been running their little business, whether you're an individual rep working your territory or you're, the head of sales enablement, building whole training programs on the basis that everybody shares the same consensus on what the ICP, the target personas are, and their profiles. All right. And that's the first point. You got to get consensus, because if you don't, marketing's saying one thing, the sales development rep is saying another thing, the account executive is saying another thing, and the buyer's confused as hell, and they just leave. They just leave. I don't need time. I don't have time to figure this out. I'm out of here. Especially when I go to the website and I read one thing, it's another. Now I'm really confused. So that's the starting point on building consensus around that. So the next thing is you need to truly understand what are the triggers, to your point, what are the various pain points that your target you're dealing with. So in this industry, for this ideal customer profile, for this role, what are the pain points, the triggers that set them off, that they deal with every day? And so for a financial person, it's going to be a very different trigger than it is for an ops person, than it is for somebody in support, as an example. So you got to get in their head, all right? The next thing you need to understand is that trigger, I'm going to say something you may not have heard before for many of you. It's ironically, it's typically not big pictures. Are you tired of missing your numbers? Well, I'm always missing my I'm always missing my numbers, right? Are you tired of your rep giving you an excuse for not doing their activity?
That I am tired of. Yes.
I am tired of that, right? I fought with one yesterday and one the day before and one last week. That's much more personal. That's a trigger for me. All right. All right. So you're going to get very specific to the role and your ideal customer profile. If you don't know those, you will fail. So your first thing you got to do is build that all out. One of the things that I try to tell people, there's a couple of different things you need to understand. For you to be successful, you really need to know your audience. So what I would suggest you to do so that you can be better when you're doing your scripting and you're doing your conversations is go talk to your customers. Believe it or not, they will take your calls. And you say, help me understand what were you dealing with before you looked at us as a solution? What were the options you considered? Why did you go A versus B versus us? What's the impact been? How do people react? Do you still have that trigger you had before? How's it changed? What did you expect it to change? Like, if we'd have done just minimally this, would that have made you happy? Help me understand that. Have those conversations, spend that time. So now when you're on the phone with them or sending the emails or doing social outreach, you know the right triggers to say this. Now, here's the thing that's really, really epic. If you do what I just said, which is so basic, and by the way, you can do these and record them so that new hires can just play these back. If you do what I just said, you know what you're going to generate by default that no one ever talks about, but will take your scripts to the next level, is you're going to have talked to ABC Inc. about all the issues they had, the chief financial officer, and the triggers and the heartache they were having and how it was impacting their life. And you will know the hot buttons for now that role, but B, you've got a story. So when they say something on the phone, you're like, well, it's funny because I was just talking to the CFO of ABC Inc.
Or I just heard the CEO, if I'm listening to a call recording, I just heard the CEO talk about that. Right.
This. Yeah. And she shared this.
Yep.
Is that, can you relate? Oh my gosh. So the storytelling is the start of a relationship. And the script is really meant to cause a trigger to lead to building trust so that when you do qualification, which you can do through your script or through your storytelling, then they offer up even more than you're asking. So
Yep.
those triggers are huge. Email is the same way. If you're going to send me an email, we did a session on this recently. If anybody's interested, drop me a line. I did a presentation on this at Outbound Conference earlier this year. I did a webinar earlier, about a month ago, on 5 different email formulas. And the one is called, I think it's 4 T's or 5 T's. It's from Josh Braun. And it's like, teach me, tell me. But the first T is trigger.
Mm-hmm.
The first line of your email, the first line is meant to trigger you.
Mm-hmm.
Then you tell me, how that, what you can do or whatever. And then you teach me, etc. Those, whether it's phone or email, that's what you got to do. But to do that, you have to have that knowledge. The last thing I'll say, there are other experts out there. I'll give a shout out to, clearly not as good as Sean. You know that, I know that. But there you go. Another person comes to mind is Anthony Iannarino. He has this concept.
Brilliant.
He has this concept of a one-up position. The one-up position says that one or two things more than your prospect does, even though they're a C or a V level, and you're just a just a lowly account executive, a lowly account, right? The reality is you're still one up on them because you know something that they don't know. And that's, again, are those triggers. That's a trigger. If they knew how to fix it, it wouldn't be a trigger, it'd be fixed.
Right.
But you know how to fix it.
But you know how to fix it. And so this is sound like we could approach it from 2 different areas then, because we've got the triggers that we need to know about the people that we're selling to, our prospects. And from a sales leader's perspective, because there's a lot of scripts we could build. I've got scripts for every single thing that we sell, and for the companies that I work with, different scripts. Because depending on the buyer position, as you mentioned, a VP of Ops is going to have a different script potentially than somebody in distribution. They could both be buyers, but we're going to have to approach it a little differently. So it's not only the triggers for our prospects, but it's also the triggering events for us as salespeople. Where on the sales team do we wish we had a script that we currently don't? And let's take those, prioritize them. We really need a script just to open conversations because we don't have one. Well, let's start building that one based upon everything that you just talked about, Darryl. Let's identify the people we need to get in touch with, how we get in touch with them, whether they're gatekeepers, whether they're VPs, whether they're C-level. So we've got a really good set of triggers. The R in trim is making this thing repeatable. This is a process that I want to be able to tackle as often as I need to develop different scripts, different templates. Now, I'm going to challenge you here because I know we could have another full hour-long conversation about how do you actually develop this into a process. If you were going to break it into 5 steps, and those 5 steps might have a lot of steps underneath them, but just 5 things that I can do in a specific order every time I need to build a new script or a new template, what would you tell people to do?
Okay, guys, this is real-time TV here. So, and there's no script for me to fall back on. 5 things I would do if I was telling my reps to build a script. Okay, so the first thing I would say is obviously research the ICP and the persona characteristics. All right, that's the first part. Second part is, as part of that, that should include their triggers. Right in that persona profile, you would have their triggers. So you're talking to an individual of a certain age bracket, psychographics, technographics, and certain triggers that they're dealing with. So that's the first part. Next thing I would say, I'm building my script, is you have to understand the timing. So typically you're going to have 7 to 12 seconds max before they even will agree to take, they're making a decision. Some will say as low as 3 seconds, but 7 seconds, I'm going to make a decision on whether or not I'm going to keep on this conversation with you. 12 seconds, I'm going to make a decision whether I'm going to trust you or not. These are rough timelines from various experts. So you want to make sure that your script isn't doing a lot of preambles, getting right to the point. You don't waste a lot of time. So be time aware. Third thing is when you're doing it, I'm going to need more than 5 here, Sean. When you're doing
you want to got to fit it in 5, man.
Okay. Third thing is brevity. You got to get your opening spiel out in 30 to 60 seconds max. And all you're looking for is permission to continue the monologue. That's all you're looking for. You're not looking to close the deal. And at the same time, you're wanting them to feel like they're in control, that they're giving you the permission. So you got to. This
absolutely applies to email for all the listeners out there. Same principle. I've got to get your attention in that first couple of lines to get your permission to want you to read the rest of it. Absolutely.
Yep. In fact, on email, the classic line is, if I have to scroll more than 2 pages on my phone, I'm not going to do it.
You're done. Yeah.
So So we did the brevity thing. Next thing is you need to make it personal. It's not about
Customized.
you.
Yeah.
Right. It's customized. It's not about you at all. It's about we do this and we do that.
Right.
It's about them. So you're going back to, do you have this problem? Or my clients have these issues. I'm going to assume this is something you don't have, but maybe I'm wrong. Correct me. Oh,
Right.
no, we have that issue. Right. And the last thing is on the script is you've got to be prepared to have a go, no go point. In other words, and this may not be what Sean's thinking. I know it's not, but where I see it over and over again, where scripts fall apart, is they linger at the end because they don't know what to do. And really what you're looking for is you're looking for them to say, yes, I'm giving you permission to keep on talking. And now we're going to another script, which is now I'm going to do some initial basic qualification. Or the answer is no. And the reason the answer is no is fine. You want the no. You want the fast no so you can make the next call because your time is
behind
valuable.
Me saying, dude, you got 40 more calls to make
today. You got 40 more calls to make. Right. So I know that's nothing at all what Sean would say, but he's put me on the spot here. So there we go. See, did I get it to 2 or 3 right? Because I didn't even talk about style or personality.
Right.
Or
those would fall under as sub-steps for sure. But in each organization, of course, come to me, come to Darryl to learn how to do that, because I know that VanillaSoft has a lot of back-end experts to help you with this kind of thing. We do. If that's something that you need. So we've got the trigger, we've got making it repeatable. I want to get you down into one step for this one, because it's something we just do occasionally. How do we make this thing improvable? What is one thing I can do every quarter or every year to take a look at my scripts and be like, hey, here's how we could make it a little better? Just one thing.
So this may not be the one thing, but let's go with it this way. The one thing we've not talked about, we opened up by saying, how can reps make themselves better, right? And we talked about all the stuff they do. One of the answers I didn't give you, and I wanted to circle back to, so this is a good time, is one of the things that reps can do to make themselves better is actually study their performance. And that's with simple dashboards. How am I converting? Where am I strong? Where am I weak? Where do I need to improve? How does that compare to benchmarks on my own team or in the industry as a whole? So I know if I'm underperforming or overperforming or just at, the water level. And so part of that is you want to look at how are what's the percentage of those conversations, that first conversation that you're having where that script is being used, leading to a second conversation. That one touch leads to a second touch. So if you look at it, I made 100 calls. I had 3 conversations. And out of those 3 conversations, I got 1 follow-on meeting. Then I argue you've got a 1% conversion rate on that script. Now that is somewhat subjective. Every mathematician out there is rolling over saying that's not at all accurate, but go ahead. The idea is you can measure yourself against the others. So how can you improve it, which is really the question you kind of gave to me, was then you want to compare your metrics versus your colleagues in the industry, all right? And yes, you want to physically learn from their styles. The second thing you can do it is you need to intentionally try other scripts that are going to feel really awkward to you. So there's a lot of experts out there. Sean, it's a great example. Sean's going to come to you and say, I think your script needs to say this. You're going to push back hard and say, that's not me. That's not how I talk. I disagree. That's the wrong answer. You can express that I have reticence because I have doubts, but then your answer should be, okay, then let's do it. We're going to do, I don't know, 100 calls each, 500 calls of each one. And we're going to figure out which one performs better. Because in the end, do you care? What do you care more about as a rep? Do you care more that you're always right, even if we don't know for a fact you're right, but you're puffing your chest out, declaring you're right? Or do you just simply care about, I just want the best shit. I don't care if I wrote it or somebody else wrote it. I don't care if it's natural to me or unnatural to me. If it gets me a higher conversion rate, which leads to a bigger pipeline, which leads to more commission checks and a better lifestyle, I'm in. I'm parking my ego because I'm not caring about this win. I want that big ass win.
So it sounds like improving is being willing to be wrong. Well, I
being willing to be wrong. And be so aware to say, if you're wrong, it doesn't mean you're not good.
Right.
There's a difference there, right?
There is. And it's something that's critical for everybody that wants to master any field of life understands. There's always room for improvement. And the most successful people I know are the ones that are usually the most humble about their own fields, which is exactly that reason. So we've got the trigger, repeatable, improvable. The final piece of this, Darryl, how do you measure the effectiveness of a script? You touched on it by measuring a salesperson
Yep.
against another salesperson, but should we be measuring this against pipeline conversion from one stage to another, against closed sales, which is the tail end of all the scripts we have? How do we begin to really measure the effectiveness to know that, yeah, this one's working well?
Okay, so here's the thing. Everybody's going to say yes to everything you just said. So this is going to be a little bit subjective. You're going to have
Mm-hmm.
my opinion is simply this, and I'll explain where I'm coming from. It's moving from, that first conversation to the second conversation. If I'm talking about the opening script, that's that conversion rate. The
Mm-hmm.
reason, and it's not, the size of my pipeline or how many deals I close. And the reason I'll say that is this. When I actually do an analysis of all my reps on a regular basis, which I do, I discern some really interesting things. And I don't think you'll disagree when I say some reps suck at prospecting, but once they've got them and they're at the
Mm-hmm.
qualification or discovery stage, they're epic.
Mm-hmm.
Other reps are brilliant at prospecting, but can't close the deal to save their lives.
Yeah.
Right. So I can't measure you on pipeline or even, the deal volume you've closed, because you could be weaker down the line and I'm misleading myself if I think that's how I need to measure it. That's an indicator. Don't get me wrong. But really, I'm breaking it down at each stage of the sales process to see where you are. And if I optimize each stage individually, then on aggregate, I should have a much better performer.
Love it. Love it. And that's exactly what we talk about in Bulletproof Selling. Whole chapter on getting those lessons learned out of the ideas of salespeople's heads and into practice in their pipeline. So, Darryl, I want to make sure people have the opportunity to go out there and start building their scripts. But for everybody that wants to get deeper into your world, I know you're active on LinkedIn. VanillaSoft is everywhere. How do we find out more about you and reach out if we want to?
So the best way truly is LinkedIn. If you're not sure how to spell it, I love this one. Praill rhymes with sale. I'm just saying that.
Yeah.
So Praill. Number one hit will be some distant relative who apparently murdered their mother or father in Alberta, Canada. I don't know them. I wasn't there. I have an alibi.
Okay.
After that, you'll links to me. So LinkedIn, Google me, go to my website, darrylpraill.com. Or go to vanillasoft.com. You can go to the live chat of VanillaSoft, say, I want to talk to Darryl, and they'll hook you up. Whatever works for you.
Nice. Love it. Love it. Well, thank you very much for sharing with us, Darryl. A lot of brilliance. I could tell we, easily another 4 hours. We'll have to run just a big series sometimes to get all that wisdom out of your head. But for everyone else out there, make sure you're following us here at Bulletproof Selling on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, of course, where all these live streams are housed. Podcast, Stitcher, Spotify, anywhere that podcasts can be found. And for more sales systems to help you replace hope with certainty in your pipelines, just like the one that I was able to build with Darryl today, make sure you're checking those out. Each single week, we're releasing new ones at bulletproof-selling.com. Sean Rhodes here with Darryl Praill. It's been a pleasure serving the sales community with you, Darryl. Let's get out there and make selling bulletproof.